Welcome to Lesson 16. At this stage, students already know that C can say K or S. In this lesson, they'll learn how to predict which of these two sounds the C will say in a word. Today, Linda's working with Oliver. They just finished the review of the flashcards, and they're about to begin the new teaching section. Letter tiles are used to demonstrate the new concept. Now, letter tiles are great for many reasons, but today I especially appreciate them because they help focus Oliver's attention. You'll see that he's a bit tired today.
All right, Oliver, we're on step 16 in spelling. We're making it through spelling, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
All right. This lesson is going to teach us when to use C and when to use K for the initial sound or the beginning sound of K. We're going to start with the letter C here. You know what sounds the letter C makes?
S and K.
That's right. But we have to be able to tell which of these two sounds the letter C is going to make. Let's pull down a few letters here because we have a way to know what sound the letter C is going to make. If C is followed by E, I, or Y, it says the S sound. If C is in front of E, it says S. If C is in front of I, it says S. And if C is in front of Y, it says S. That's right. So anytime C is in front of E, I, or Y, it says S. Good. Now let's try a few more letters. Let's try A and O and U, and how about a few consonants? L and R. If C is in front of A, it doesn't say S, it says K. That's right. If C is in front of O, it says K. If C is in front of U, it says K. If C is in front of L, it says K. And if C is in front of R, it says K. So in front of any other letter except for E, I, and Y, it says K. What sound does it say if it's in front of E, I, and Y? That's right. So what sound does C make in front of any other letter? K. Good. Let's try mixing these up and see if you can figure out what sound C makes in front of these letters. Let's try U. K. How come?
Because there's not E, I, or Y.
That's right. What sound does C make in front of O? K. Good. Good job. How about L? K. Very good. Very good. All right, how about E? All right, great job.
Next, Linda will introduce key card 7. A key card summarizes a spelling rule or concept, and we use the cards to customize the student's review in later lessons.
Let's look at our first key card here. C says S before what 3 letters?
E, I, or Y.
That's right. You know how we can sometimes remember even a little bit better if we say E, I, or Y. E, I, or Y. So C says S before what 3 letters?
E, I, or Y.
That's right. We'll put that in your review box and we'll review that a little bit later, tomorrow and the next day.
Oliver has a good grasp of that first concept, so now we'll build on it. Everything is gradual and incremental, with one idea building upon the other.
Now we're going to look at another letter, okay? What sound does the tile K make? That's right. Now I want to spell the word kit. But I don't know whether to use the C or the K to spell the word kit. I'm going to put a blank there because we're not sure yet whether we're going to use C or K. We always start with the C. And then we look and decide, does this say kit?
No.
Why doesn't it say kit?
Because there is not, because there is a I and not any other letter.
All right, because what 3 letters make the C say S?
E, I, or Y.
So what does this say?
Sit.
That would say sit, not kit. How would we make it say kit?
We would put the K right here.
That's right. Because C doesn't work, we know that it has to be the K. Now it says kit. Let's build some more words. Okay, we'll decide whether to use C or K. Let's try the word cut. All right, what letter should we try first?
C.
All right, does that say cut?
Yes.
It does. How come?
Because there's not a E, I, or Y after the C.
All right, good job. Let's try another word. Let's try craft. Gotta pull down F, and there's our T. All right, does that say craft? Whoops, which letter do we try first?
C.
Always try C first. All right, does that say craft?
Yes.
How come?
Because there's not a E, I, or Y after the C.
That's right. So it says the sound of K, and it says craft.
Oliver and Linda go on to practice this concept with several more words: kid, camp, and kept. Since Oliver had no problem choosing between C and K for each word, Linda will now introduce key card 8, and then move on to dictating phrases for mixed review.
All right, let's go over our key card 8. What are 2 ways to spell the sound of K at the beginning of a word? C and K. All right, that's what we've been doing, deciding whether to use C or K. Which letter do we always try first?
C.
The C, that's right. And then we can decide whether it says S or K. And if it says S, then we can switch to K. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Good job. All right, let's do a little bit of dictation. Oops, I closed my book. Want to write your name at the top?
Sure.
All right. On the first line, can you write red flag? Good job. Can you write Pam and Ted? Good job. And can you write swim fast? Good job. Do you know Pam and Ted are names of people, right? What goes at the beginning of a word that's a name of a person?
A capital.
A capital. So when we would write Pam and Ted, we would make the P and the T capitals, wouldn't we? You want to fix that T on Ted? Good job. All right. Great job.
Oliver did do a great job. From beginning to end, this particular lesson took 14 minutes. It started with review, new teaching, and then dictation. I recommend teaching spelling for 15 to 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Looking ahead to tomorrow's lesson, Oliver will get 10 word cards that follow the concept in today's lesson, as well as right phrases containing these new words. Shorter, more frequent lessons are much more effective than longer, infrequent lessons. Do you see how these lessons are confidence builders? Students are taught exactly what they need to know. They don't need to guess. They learn one piece of new information, and then they have time to practice it. And that is how we make spelling easy to learn and easy to teach.